All right, I want you to come back to me. There were really 4 problems I wanted you to do. The bottom 2 is what's going to connect us to today's lesson. So to go through these again, please make sure if you're stuck or don't know how to do any of these methods, this is your indicator that you need to get some more help. Please know we're really going, this is the last thing I'm showing you today is the last new part of our unit. So then we're really doing review after this and a test. Okay, so we really need to make sure. What was that?
You test today?
No.
Oh.
So I'm teaching you a new skill today, and that's the last new thing I'm teaching you. Then after today, we'll have a review day, and we have a test coming up. So you guys are potentially looking to test on Friday. Because I taught you GCF, I taught you dots, we went over the X method, we went over the group, we went over 2 days of figuring out when do I need each method. So you've been doing it for a while. Group your first 2, group your second 2, what needs to be in the middle? What needs to be in the middle when I do my grouping? An addition sign. What was your GCF of this first group? 2x squared. Good. And I'm left over with 5x plus 2. What? Underline it. Why is that so indicated? So important to have that indicator. Your GCF needs to be negative. So my GCF is negative what? Negative 1. Okay, if you're not sure, use menu 2, 5, because the greatest number that goes into 5 and 2 is negative 1. So give yourself your binomial. Negative 1 times what gives me negative 5x? 5x, right? That's where the 5x is coming from. Then negative 1 times what is negative 2?
Negative 2?
Positive 2. You're a positive 2. Oh. All right, then check with me. Do I have a common binomial? Do I have a common binomial? Do I have the same group?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got 5x plus 2. Underline it with me right now. We write that group out front. 5x plus 2. I would wait till we go over these 4. If you need to go, if it's an emergency, yes, but knowing these 4 are important. Then if I cover it up, what would be left over? What would your other group be? 2x squared minus 1. 2x squared minus 1. All right, then that second group, what's the first thing we do when we factor? We look for our GCF. On 2, what is your GCF? What's the greatest number that goes in 9 and 14? It's 1. 2 doesn't go in because 9's not even. Again, use that menu 2, 5. I'm glad you're using mental math, but check it with your calculator. Then how many terms are there? 2. What method do we hopefully use when I have 2 terms? Dots. Can I use dots here? Is 9 a perfect square? Is x to the 4th a perfect square? It is. Check that part off. But is 14 a perfect square? No. So can I factor this one any further? Right. 9x to the 4 minus 6. Not minus 16. Minus 14. That's in simplest factor form. Some of you tried to do dots. And I saw 7s. Is 7 times 7 14? No, that one can't be factored because 14 is not a perfect square. All right, then on 3 and 4, on 3, what's your GCF? What's the greatest number that goes into 1, 14, and 49? Just 1. Can I factor out an x? Can I factor out an x? Can someone tell me why can I not? Show me your hand. Why can I not factor out an x? Beautiful. That third term doesn't have an x. My GCF is just 1. Then, Grim, how many terms are there? 3. When you have 3 terms, what do? Draw the x. Draw the x for me right now. Automatically. Analyze. How many terms? 3 terms. Draw the x. What's going to go on the top of this x? 49. Now, here's the key to today's lesson. Where did you get that 49? Where did you get the 49? 1 times 49. Make sure you have that arc in there. 1 times 49. What goes on the bottom? Negative 14. Grim, did you find what 2 numbers multiply to give you 49 and add to you negative 14? Good. Negative 7, negative 7. Now I saw some of you stop here. This is the thought process, but did we actually factor? No, you need to give yourself those 2 groups. What times itself would give me x squared? X. And then I have the minus 7 and the minus 7. Check on 4, you should be with me and you should be going over this. I'm not sure what else we're doing in our calculators. On 4, what was your GCF on 4? Was there a GCF other than 1? It's 1, but it's 1 what? X. Your GCF is actually X. But how many terms are there? 3. What method are we going to use? The X method. But before we use this, we need to factor out a GCF first. Watch, pull out an X. So it's going to be X times X squared minus 13X minus 30. That was my GCF. So now what we're going to try to factor is this part right here. So 3 terms. What would go on the top of the X? What would go on the top? Someone raise your hand. Tell me what would go on the top of the X. Agree? Negative 30. Somebody else. What would go on the bottom of the X? What did you say? Negative 13. Did anyone find what two numbers multiply to give you negative 30 and adds to give you negative 13? Jake, what was it? 10 and?
Negative 10.
Negative 10 and?
Negative.
Negative 3? Does that work? I like where your head's at. You saw the 10 and 3, but that wouldn't add together to give me negative 13. And it would add to give me negative 13, but it wouldn't give me negative 30 when I multiply. So negative 10 and negative 3 does not work. Did anyone find anything different? Andrew?
I got negative 2 and 15.
Negative 2 and positive 15? Do you agree with negative 2 and positive 15?
Yes.
Closer.
Wait.
Agree?
Negative 15 and 2.
It has to give me negative 15, negative 13. So positive 2, negative 15. So it would factor into X minus 15, X plus 2. Are we done there? What's the one thing we have to remember? Bring down that X. So just X minus 15, X plus 2. Because that was our GCF. We just can't lose the GCF. The GCF hangs out on every line. All right. Again, grouping. We could not do dots, our X method with a GCF. All right, take a look at 5. Please put a star on number 5. Write the word new. It's not really new, but we have not seen a problem like this. So, first of all, how many terms? 3, right? There's 3 terms. 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. I already drew the X for you. What would go on the top of the X?
20.
Where are you getting? I don't see a 20. Where are you getting 20? Raise your hand and tell me. I agree. It is 20s going on top. But where are you getting 20? I don't see 20. Joel?
Because of the 2x squared is, usually there would be a 1s, but instead it would be a 2.
So what do I have to do with that 2? Up until now, we've only seen a 1 there. What do you have to do with that 2? Good. 2 times 10. So remember, the whole idea was to multiply your A value. Remember how we drew this arc? It's been 1 times 49. 1 times negative 30. Now, it's 2 times 10. 20 going on top. That's why I've been emphasizing, draw that arc.
Is it all the time when it's like 2?
Anytime, because it could be a 2, it could be a 3, it could be a 5. You're always multiplying your first coefficient times your constant. That's why we drew the arc.
Oh.
Then what would go on bottom? 9.
I mean,
What 2 numbers multiply to give you 20 and add together to give you 9? 5 and 4. Now, do you see any connection between 5 and 6?
Yes, it starts with a 2x.
Starts with now. I like what Jalen just said. I'm looking for my yellow
Yes,
highlight.
sir.
Oh. I start with 2x squared. I start with 2x squared. What did it end with?
20.
Ended with 10.
Oh.
Ended with 10. Take a look.
Oh.
Here's the part that I need you watching.
I see.
This is the new skill. Watch, watch, watch. Do you see how we did this X method? And you see how our middle term was 9? When we completed that X, we got 5 and 4. Do you see how you can replace 9x with 5x and 4x? So what this X allows me to do, this is called split or splitting the middle. You took this middle term and you're going to draw like you're splitting it. We split it into these side two numbers. Now the reason those can't go right into a group is because, underline that too, A does not equal 1. That first number does not equal 1. Joel said it before. Up until now, it was always a 1. If it's a 1, life's easy. We can get those two numbers, put it right into the groups. But if A is not 1, we have to split the middle. Now, once I split the middle, how many terms are here? 4. What method do we use when we have 4 terms? Watch. Group the first two. Group the second two. What is your GCF for your first group?
2.
Careful. 2 doesn't go into 5. What's your GCF that first group? 1
X.
X.
So why?
So I still have to pull the X out. Watch what's going to happen. And I'd be left with 2X plus 5. What's the GCF of the second group? We just did this part. We pulled out an X.
2.
X times 2X is 2X squared. X times 5 is 5X, right? That's grouping. What's the GCF of the second group? 2. What would be left over? 2X plus 5 again. And I have that common binomial. 2X plus 5 times X plus 2. So
just did what we did.
it's combining two methods. It's combining the X method and grouping, but I only use this method when A does not equal to 1. So there's still 3 terms, but now we have to identify the A. So come up to the top. Remember how we said 2 terms we do dots? 4 terms we do grouping? 3 terms, we're still going to draw the X, but now it depends. Does A equal 1 or does A not equal 1? Flip it over to the back of me. All right. What would go on the top of our X? What would you multiply?
15.
Careful, not 15, but negative 15. Good.
Thanks, Connor.
What would go on the bottom? Negative 2. What two numbers multiply to give you negative 15 and add to give you negative 2? What could you type into your calculator if you're not sure? Negative 15 divided by X.
Oh.
Use that calculator strategy. If you're not sure, I should see that calculator in your hand. I should see a new graph, negative 15 divided by X.
Oh, 3. Oh, no.
Jake, what'd you find? Figure negative 5 and positive 3? Negative 5, positive 3.
I'm so good.
All right, now here's the catch. Can I go right into the groups? X minus 5 and X plus 3. Does that work?
No.
Cross it off. Write it down and cross it off. This does not work. No. Why? Why can't I do that? We've been doing it all along. What's the difference here?
The A is not 1.
The A is not 1. So, A is not 1. I want you to write the method. It's called split the middle. So I know 3x squared stays there. I know negative 5 stays there. I'm taking this middle term, negative 2x, and what is it splitting into? Negative 5 and 3, but negative 5 what? What's the variable?
X.
So it's negative 5x, and it's positive 3x. So negative 5x, positive 3x. How many terms do we have? 4. What method do we use?
Group.
Group the first two. Group the second two. What's your GCF for your first group?
1.
1x. So I'm left with 3x minus 5. What's your GCF for your second group? 1. And I'm left with 3x minus 5. Do I have a common binomial? So it's going to be 3x minus 5 And your other group is going to be x
+1.
plus 1. Fantastic.
Okay.
Say it one more time.
Yeah, say it again.
Then take a look at 8. Let's see how far you could get. So step 1 is to fill out that x, right? What's going to go on the top of the x? 12. What's going to go on the bottom of the x? Negative 8. If you don't know your factors, you should be typing in 12 divided by x. And notice it's adding together to get a negative number, so you're going to want a cursor up to go towards negative numbers. So it's going to be 2 negative numbers since it has to multiply to give you a positive. So a negative and a negative.
Oh, got it.
I want to see in your table. If you're not sure, that should either be filled out or I should see you working in your table right now. What 2 numbers did you find? Negative
2.
2 and negative
6.
6. Great. Can I go right to my groups?
No.
No. So again, A is not 1. We need to split the middle. I wrote split the middle. Split the middle.
So you put like 3x.
So it's going to be 3x squared. Then what?
4.
Remember, it's each one of those. So it's minus 2
Oh, yeah.
x and minus 6 x and plus 4 is at the end.
And then you group it.
You do grouping. Group your. Oh, careful. What's tricky about this grouping?
You got a 3 on it.
There's going to be a negative, right? So make sure you write the plus in the middle. What's your GCF for that first group? 1x. Now, is that GCF always going to be 1x? No. In these cases, they happen to be, but they're not always. So it's going to be x times 3x minus 2. Careful, GCF for the second group. Notice it starts with a negative. So right away, I know the GCF is going to be negative. And what's the greatest number that goes into 6 and 4?
2.
So it's negative 2. And what's your group going to be?
3x negative 2.
Good. 3x minus 2. Have that common binomial, 3x minus 2. And your other group would be?
Wait. Oh.
X minus 2. I want you to try 9 right now.
By ourselves?
Yeah. See how far you can get. Figure out where you're getting stuck. If you're getting stuck with the first step, great, I can help. If you're getting stuck with the second step, start there.
We add? Oh, no, we times.
I would use that calculator strategy if you don't know. So I should see that top number under a new graph divided by x.
Sound bigger now? I don't know.
slow down. It's positive numbers.
I don't know. I'm still stuck. Nigga, I'm still stuck on the first part. I was stuck on the first one. I'm stuck.
All right, let's do a check-in to figure out where you are, where you're getting stuck, so we can help you through that next step. So first of all, what goes on the top of the X?
Negative 100.
And negative 15. What two numbers did you find that multiply to give you negative 100 and add to give you negative 15, Jake?
Negative 25.
Negative 20 and positive 5. Double check. Did you write
Nah, I ain't get that.
your negative 20 first? If you did negative 5 and positive 20, that would give you positive 15, right? Double check, is your negative first. This is what's going to make your grouping easier. Now watch with me. Split your middle so I know 4x squared stays there. If you're getting stuck at this part, make sure you're watching. Now I'm literally taking this middle term and replacing it with those two numbers. But if it's an x, it gets replaced with negative 20x, positive 5x. So again, I'm taking this middle number and it gets replaced with those two numbers, but make sure it's the variable, negative 20x and 5x. Then we do grouping. Do you see how by writing the negative first, I now have a positive in between and it makes your grouping easier? That's why if there's one negative, write it first. It makes your grouping easier. What would the GCF for the first group be?
2x.
Greater than 2.
4.
4x times x minus 5. What would the GCF of the second group be? What goes into 5 and 25? 5 times x minus 5. I have that common binomial. And what would be left over from my other group?
4x plus 5.
Try number 10. See if you can get one step further, 2 steps further than the last one. Some of you got to the x, which is a good start. See if you can go further than that x. 2:15. This is Katie Garrick. Good. How are you? I do. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Bye. Again, see if you can get one step further on that x.
Is it me? Where? Where? Just a nice.
See if you can get one step further than you did on the last part. Can you get through that x? Make sure you're showing that splitting the middle. Make sure you're showing that grouping. Again, use that calculator strategy. I should see you working through. If you're stuck, ask for help. regroup with me. What would go on the top of your X? And again, I'd rather hear from you when you're ready than catch you off guard. What would go on the top of your X? You're here with 16. What would go on the bottom? Negative 17. What two numbers multiply to give you 16 and add to give you negative 17? Negative 1 and negative 16. Can you pause for a second? I'm noticing the mistake that people are making is forgetting the variable. Can you draw that that's getting split? So your variable is going to be negative 1 what? Negative 1. Can you write it right there so I remember? And it's going to be negative 16 x. The only time we do that is when I know I need to split my middle term. So I have 4x squared minus 1x minus 16x plus 4. Now again, how many terms do I have? I split it, so now I create how many terms? 4. Group your first two, group your second two. What would your GCF for your first group be? It would be 4 if you wrote negative 16x first. If you wrote negative 16x, it would be different. Mine is 1x times 4x minus 1. Notice, negative leading coefficient, so my GCF is going to be negative what? Negative 4 times 4x minus 1. Common binomial, 4x minus 1 times x minus 4. I'm going to give you some classwork to work on. If you finish the classwork, then I'm going to assign you and you can start working on your homework. Can you take out your yellow packets? I want to see you practice this skill. If you fly through it, great. Then you'll have some time to knock out that homework. Yeah? Does it say 3 or does it start with 4? 4 is still our current one. 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5. Still in 4. Okay, so you're going to go to page 31. It's going to sound odd, but there's a reason behind it. On page 31, do you see how there's diamonds? The diamonds, one year my students refused to use the X. They didn't like it. So I was like, sure, we'll call it the diamond instead of the X. So it's the same thing as our X. I'm going to have you do 3 through 8. So the bottom 6. The reason I'm having you do that is there's more work with positives and negatives rather than just positives and positives. So you're working on 3 through 8. When you finish 3 through 8, I'll give you your classwork credit grade. So again, this is for an actual classwork grade. Then I'll have you start your homework. Hannah was first, and you already went. Hannah, go ahead.
3 through 8.
3 through 8, please. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 6 problems. Problem back up there so you can copy it down. We're working on a graded classwork right now. When you finish the classwork, or if you want me to check it as we're going through it, that is a classwork grade. It's not homework, it's classwork. Then I'll give you the homework to start working on.
At essential, somehow this comes with scary.
Okay, focus. You got this.
30.
We're working on 3 through 8. Okay.